So hi everybody, it's Deborah Carter from Preparation Tech here. Today I'm speaking with Michelle Ivankovic, who is an amazing and hot industrial designer based in Amsterdam. And Michelle is really special because not only is she a really talented industrial designer, but she's also a mentor to some emerging young talent. It was Michelle who told me about Shaquille Veldboom, who I interviewed, this self-taught 3D graphic designer. And even he said, you know, it's people like Michelle who give me the breaks that have really made a difference in my career. So I am so happy to be talking to Michelle today. Welcome, Michelle. Let's start off with you telling us what you do.
So I'm an industrial designer, which means that I design the products that end up inside your house. Most of them, some of them not so much in your house, like what being used in stores as fixtures or whatever, but mostly household products that get mass produced and that you buy and use all the time.
So tell us a bit about your favorite projects. I see some beautiful colors behind you. What is going on behind you? I think I'm interested.
So that's kind of like my color board. Because I do a lot of work in assigning colors for the products that I design, I like to have real things to refer to the colors. So I have paper chips and things like that that I can pick out of a fan book, but it doesn't have the same effect as looking at it in a real object. So I keep these handy so that I can always mix and match them together and play with them. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Yes. So tell us a bit about some of your favorite projects.
Well, some of my favorite projects are maybe in the last few years. So one of them, I mean, my favorite projects tend to be things that reduce single-use plastic use. So one of them would be this product, which is the food huggers. They're these half discs of silicone that you can pop like your leftover lemon or onion into and save it. So it kind of reduces the need for plastic wrap or foil and things like that and keeps it super fresh, and you could use this for a lifetime. So that's one of them. And the other one, which is also another Kickstarter that I did, is a reusable lid that makes any cup into a children's sippy cup or drinking cup. And it's got like this leak-proof straw with a valve on it and some different ideas that just reduce your need for having lots of objects around. So I'm really into minimizing things. So that's another one of my favorites.
Wow, and you talk about having Kickstarter projects. Tell us a bit about that, because I mean, I love crowdfunding and stuff, but I get a bit scared. Like, how do you know if it's going to be successful? And yeah, what was your experience of that?
Oh my gosh, it's so terrifying, but it's fun. Well, we didn't know that it was going to be successful at all. You just have to try it and see what happens. And you have to talk yourself through it the whole time. Like, okay, well, if it flops, it flops. It's okay. I mean, we have to try. And the really great thing is that you can, or at least at the time when I was doing them, you were able to get into it without investing too much. So then you could kind of test out, how something was going. And then if it really went well, then of course you go into production and you deliver your rewards. So that was really fun. And it's this really empowering way to be able to get things out into, it's a really democratic way to get things out onto the market, because it's no longer a C-suite of people who are vetting your product. It's actually people who are going to buy it saying whether it should go into production or not.
And so how much were you looking to raise, and how fast did you raise the money you needed to actually start producing the food huggers?
We were looking to raise $26,000, and then we ended up raising, well, we blew through that in like 24 hours. And then in 30 days, we raised 184,000.
Oh my gosh, wow. Were you expecting to have this kind of success?
No, no, not at all. I mean, and the really cool thing about it is actually, it wasn't even the money that you raise that creates as much of the success. It's all the other things that come out of it along with the success of the Kickstarter that were really bigger than getting the money. So it were the people that reached out to us, the extra press that we got, the retailers who started becoming interested and everything like that. So it was really much more about launching the company in a bigger way than just finances.
So Michelle, I read that you guys were shortlisted for an open IDEO competition around single-use plastic bags, which is
Yeah.
amazing. It's open, it's IDEO. Tell us about this.
Well, it's really exciting because it's IDEO, but it's extra exciting because they're partnered with all the major retailers in the US. So like Walmart, Target, CVS, and whatever submissions end up going through will actually get piloted into, they have the support of the retailers who are trying to get rid of these plastic bags. And so it'll get piloted into the biggest retailers in the world. So that's I think the most exciting part, is that it will really affect change.
And what did you guys propose? What did you guys develop for the competition?
So we have developed we've worked with a company that actually makes fabrics out of wood fibers. So, but the wood fibers are harvested from the undergrowth of forests, so that what it does is when they take it out, it actually allows the big trees in the forest to grow bigger and stronger and kind of cleans up the forest floor. And then it's 100% biodegradable, compostable. It depends on how long it takes to compost. We're not there yet. We're doing a study with UC Berkeley to figure that out. But it ends up going right back into the soil and creating compost to grow another forest, essentially. So that's where we're going with that. And it's reusable too. So it's this really unique combination of reusable and compostable.
I love it. I can't wait to get my hands on this. I hope you win this competition and that you get into production.
I hope the best submission wins and that we solve the problem.
I hope you all get to go into some kind of distribution. That would be great. Do you consider yourself a tech creator or a tech user?
I'm a tech user, but I am also working on tech creation right now as well. So getting into sort of game apps as well, just because it feels natural to do it. I mean, I just think that it's fun, and it's so many solutions right now are looking in that direction. And it would just be impossible to ignore some of the fun, creative things that you can get into there.
So what kind of technology are you using these days?
So I use a 3D data creation, so like SolidWorks, rendering programs such as Keyshot, and also one of my new favorite things is augmented reality. So being able to show my products in augmented reality to a client rather than like just looking at a static rendering of it, so that they can put it on their tabletop and look all the way around it and like really get a sense for it in 3D space and the lighting in their room and everything. So I love that.
Wow. And now is this stuff you have a background in, or is this stuff that you've really had to learn on the job?
It was stuff that I had to learn on the job. So I went to art college and did industrial design there, where because it was an art-based sort of industrial design program, they don't teach you the tech because they feel like that's something you should do in your own time, that they want to teach you the thinking skills more, which I'm happy with. And so I learned the tech on the side from that.
Wow. It's funny you should say that, because another couple that I interviewed who are graphic designers in Toronto, they also had that experience. They went to school and they got the philosophy and the thinking about creativity and design, but the professors were like, okay, software, figure it out on your own. Figure it out on your own time. We want to teach you to think about your craft. So it sounds like you had the same experience.
Yeah, I think that's generally how it goes. So there would be like more like practical type college applications where they will teach you the tech. And then there are, in an art college, it'll be more theoretical.
Mm-hmm. So what's your favorite kind of technology to work with? I mean, I assume you're doing 3D printing. Are the food huggers 3D printed, or are they mass produced?
They're mass produced, but when we do prototypes, especially in things like rubber, you can't You don't get great 3D prints. Actually, I have some 3D prints around of rubber, but I can grab those in a second. But so that's actually just kind of newer, the rubbers for 3D printing, and they're not for production. But most of the time we print the molds and then cast the rubber in it for prototypes, and then production is a whole different type of thing.
What technology do you think has been a game changer in terms of how people are looking at design and products?
Well, strangely enough, it's not a technology that's like for my specific craft, but I would say the platforms, the shopping platforms like Shopify or Lightspeed or something like that are amazing because they allow you to set up like a store in a perfectly designed way with so little effort and be able to and put all those systems in place to be able to deliver and ship and market and everything like that. I mean, the amount of building it would take 10 years ago would be just, it would take you 6 months to do what you can do in a week on Shopify.
And you're on Shopify with your products?
Yep.
Wow. And how much, what percentage of your business comes from Shopify? Because I assume that you're also shipping to big retailers as well.
Yeah, it really has varied over time, right? So it really depends. And like a lot of things also shift towards Amazon and everything. But I would say, oh, that's really hard to say. And maybe my business partner would kill me if I did say.
Okay, so you don't have to say that. But what, are you selling on Amazon as well? Like you're on all these different, wow. So part of being a savvy tech person is knowing what platforms, what retail platforms you have to be on, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, tech is the way that to get it out there for sure. I mean, we even sell to all our retailers through tech and everything. So it's not going door to door and having the visits so much as it used to be at some point. It's really about creating the easiest way for them to shop with you as well.
I'm talking to you. You obviously love design. You love to make tangible, physical things that reduce single-use plastic, for example. How did you get there, Michelle? Tell us about your childhood. What kind of kid were you? What did you like to do? Were you like playing around with rubber and putting caps on food? And what were you doing as a kid?
I was always making stuff. So I spent a lot of time making things. And I just loved making it. And I also like doing athletics, like sports and everything as well. And apparently those two things, like three-dimensional design and athletics, tend to go hand in hand. When I was at art college in my color class, the color professor had everybody put up their favorite color combinations up on a wall anonymously. And she looked at them and she picked out like 3 or 4 people who were 3D people. And she said, okay, so you're a 3D person. I can tell by the colors you've chosen. And you must have also done a lot of sports as a child, because people who like high contrasting colors or really intense color combinations tend to be people who move around objects and don't have the time to really get that subtlety in color understanding. And so, yeah, it's actually true that when you go into the 3D portion, like side, so either sculpture and installation or industrial design, you'll find people who tended to move around objects a lot more than sitting still at a table and playing with them.
Wow. Okay, you talked about making. What were the kinds of things you were making as a kid?
I would make all my Halloween costumes. I would make furniture. Yes, really not cool, but yes, I would do things like that and just play with muck, make machines, games, whatever, like anything that I had materials for. I would just start putting them together and gluing them together, and drawing as well a lot.
Did you have role models at the time growing up? Were you into designers from a young age, or?
No.
No.
No role models at all. I just didn't.
And then as you grew older, you went to school. Who became your role models?
Well, I mean, I didn't really have role models. I mean, I really admire David Suzuki, would be somebody who stands out to me. But I've always kind of like followed my own path. So, I mean, I just really like I can't even explain it. Like a strange inertia drives me towards things. Like, for example, I joined the boys ice hockey team when I was a kid, just because I really wanted to play ice hockey, and I had no idea that why I wanted to do it or whatever. I just did it.
Very impressive. You were a trailblazer as well. Maybe explain who David Suzuki is for people who don't know, because that does play into your single-use plastic, your work around trying to get this away. Explain who David Suzuki is for people who
So
don't know.
he's a Canadian scientist who is an environmentalist, really dedicated to it, but he's done a lot of broadcasting on television since the 1970s about nature and about the environment. And it's kind of like something that maybe if you're Canadian, it's entered into your deep psyche from childhood, like David Suzuki as a character and how important the environment is.
Absolutely. I had the privilege of sitting beside his daughter at a dinner a year ago in Switzerland. And
Wow.
like nobody seemed to know who she was really, but I was like, oh my gosh, wow, this is so cool. So I'm glad you mentioned David Suzuki. Now, you have this interesting background because you've worked for very different companies with different scales. So you worked for Umbra, which is a big design company, and you've also worked as an independent. Tell us how these experiences differ, especially with technology and how you use technology, or if there even was a difference.
Well, actually, it was really different in terms of the 3D printing. So Umbra, being a big company, had one of the best 3D printers at the earliest time, like something the size of a fridge, and it was always really accurate and really great. And then when I went out onto my own, I got my own 3D printer, and it was like pretty well a sewing machine that like needed constant maintenance and screws being tightened and loosened. So that would be one of the technology differences. But when I started at Umbra, they were still sending hand drawings by fax to manufacturers in Asia. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. We're going to like switch over to 3D, some 3D data and everything. And of course, it was the right time to do it. And they were, yeah, like, yes, we were just about to. So,
You gave them a little nudge, a little nudge.
yeah.
Great. So my next question is, what would you say is the mindset and the personal characteristics of people who are going to thrive in industrial design? And the reason I ask is because a lot of adult influencers in kids' lives are constantly trying to match like the personality and the mindset and kind of the behaviors of a kid with professions that they think they would be good at. So I'm asking you this to kind of give them some insight into whether or not their kid would be interested, might do well in industrial design.
Well, industrial design's kind of evolving right now a lot into UX. So a lot of industrial designers are getting more into service design, which is a little bit different than what I've been doing. So, but I would say that there's a highly, highly social aspect to it. And what a lot of people say would be that you would need empathy. So being able to understand like this people's pain points and trying to solve for that and really getting into other people's shoes and looking at how you can make lives better through it.
Wow. And then what about things like, what's more important? Is it the technical skills, or is it the soft skills, or is it your fearlessness about experimentation, or is it a combination of all? What are the most important skills?
I think it really depends on what field of, like what part of industrial design you go into, but I think it's really important to have like a good grasp of technically, if you're going to be executing products in 3 dimensions, technically how that goes. I think that really is helpful and interesting, and I love it. The soft skills, I guess the creative skills are invaluable, but I feel like creative skills are invaluable in like so many fields right now. Yeah, I mean, bravery in any field that you have to be creative, you have to be brave and just be willing to like take rejection and take people saying that it's bad and be okay with that and move on.
And I assume you've had a lot of experience in this field.
Yeah.
Women working in industrial design. I don't know how many women, what the percentage is or the gender representation is, but tell us a bit about your experience. Is this a profession or a domain, a field that is women friendly?
Well, I think that I've faced a lot of challenges by being a woman in industrial design. I think a lot of the time when people ask me about the products that I design, they'll end with the question, they'll ask about the process and they'll end with, and then who did the engineering data for it? And I'll say, oh, well, I did. And they'll be like, no, but who did the actual like engineering, you know, like the 3D data and everything? And I'll be like, oh, golly gee, I did. Like, it's just really astounding that that question still gets asked. But I mean, the stats are that there's about a 50% graduation rate of industrial designers that are women to men, but less than 5% of the people working in the field are women. So somewhere hovering around 2%. So they're not getting the jobs, even though they are interested in getting into the field, they're not getting hired. And
why? Why do you think that is? I mean, it's crazy. If you've got the credentials, the professional qualifications, then would it not seem that you would at least get some interviews, a shot at working?
Well, I think that I think that it's just because it's traditionally such a male-dominated field, but it's also like a smaller field, so there's not a lot of attention to it or push to actually hire women into the field. That might be part of it.
I sure hope it's changing. And so I guess it makes sense then for you.
Well, not yet, sadly.
Yeah. But then I guess there probably are a lot of independent industrial designers then that are female. Would you say?
No, I don't think so. I think that, I mean, even when I show up to any sort of trade things or like a competition or something like that, it'll be pretty male dominated still. Yeah. I think that a lot of women just kind of peter out of the field because they're just not seeing success or positive reaction to what they're doing. So even as independents, it can be really difficult.
So I'm going to ask two last questions. And the first one is related to school. Do you feel that schools are really getting kids excited about design and art and creativity? And are they really keeping in step with changes to the curriculum, teaching kids basic skills like being able to ideate and then to create like tangible prototypes and to understand how to use like tech like 3D printing and 3D graphic design, this kind of stuff?
I'm seeing a lot of the tech being pulled into school for things like 3D printing and everything, to try that out. But the creative side, like sort of critical thinking and everything, I think it varies from school to school. And there's definitely like cultures that form within schools, and like the teachers kind of form a culture amongst themselves about how to think about teaching. And so I'd be careful about selecting which school.
Right. Oh, no, fair enough. And then my last question, can you give some very specific, actionable tips and advice for parents who want to expose their kids to design and to maybe show them that industrial design is a study and a career path that is available to them? For example, I know you have children. Are you teaching your kids about design or exposing them through activities and stuff?
Well, I would say that any sort of creative field, one of the most important things that a parent can do is be supportive of it. Because we are so trained into thinking that picking safe paths is the best path, but there's nothing safe about picking a safe path if you don't love it. That's actually a very dangerous path to go down. So I think encouraging kids to follow their passion, and if their passion, so yes, they have to know about the different options, and industrial design I think if you see a knack for anything three-dimensional in your child or the service design side of it, I would definitely start looking up YouTube tutorials on three-dimensional design, 3D printing, and the CAD kind of thing as well. How to actualize your ideas in renderings and things like that.
Everything that I didn't have as a child and I wish I had.
Actually, I'll tell you a little really nice anecdote about when I got into art college. I received the acceptance letter and I was so nervous. My dad happened to be there. And so we were opening it together and it was, okay, you're accepted into art college. And I was like, yay. And he was like, yay. And I was like, okay, well, it means I'll probably never ever make any money and you're going to have to support me, Dad. And he's like, no, because you're going to be the best. And I was like, amazing, like the best response ever. And like, but you know, of course you had me hanging for a second, like, you're not.
This is great. And this really, getting back to Preparation Tech, it's the adults and kids' lives that can make such a difference. And your father had this belief in you. He knew his daughter, and he knew you'd be successful. And guess what? Today, I'm talking with a successful industrial designer, so he was right. So, yeah. Michelle, thank you. This has been a wonderful interview, and I think you've really given folks an idea of the possibilities around industrial design and, you know, also combining your passion for sustainability with your craft. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, Deborah.